Cool. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the BGL monthly webinar. This is our first one for 2026. Okay, so in this session, it is being recorded. So if you do miss any parts or would like to send it to anyone, you will be sent a link to the recording, or you will find this webinar and previous ones on our YouTube channel. You will also be sent a copy of the slides if you do need them, and ask any questions that are needed, either regarding the topics or anything you might have. We've got several BGL team members signed in and ready to answer questions. So with our format for 2026, we're actually going to change it up to previous years. We're actually going to cover what's happening across the entire BGL suite of products. So some of the things may or may not be relevant for you, but we want to make sure that you're keeping informed in what's happening across all of our products. So you will hear from various speakers, not just myself. I'll just be passing over to the relevant experts in each of the fields. Each month, we might have guest speakers as well on a particular topic. So if there's, for example, with Div 296 coming out and things of that nature, AML, we will actually have specialist speakers coming in to actually provide more, I suppose, insights as well, and not just around the actual software. So for today, we're going to cover 4 distinct parts. First will be Simple Fund 360, followed by CAS 360, Smart Docs 360, and then we'll talk about AML, what's happening in the AML space, and what BGL is doing. Okay, so first one there, I'll pass over to our first, I suppose, speaker, Anthony Fernandez. So he's our Simple Fund expert. Anthony, we saw this week that with Division 296, that obviously it passed both houses of Parliament, and I suppose now just waiting for the official stamping. So a lot happening in that space.
Yep, thanks a lot, Jeeves, and perfect timing because so as part of these webinars, what we essentially intend to show is what was released within product for the previous month. So in the month of February, the main feature that we did get out is the AI assistant to do with Division 296. And as so rightfully mentioned, the let's say the legislation passed the Senate a couple of nights ago, and now it's essentially going to be law. So we had clients asking what we were doing around this space. And as a starting point, you now have this AI assistant, which essentially helps you identify potentially which funds have members that are going to get caught up by it, as well as, projecting using, let's say, current year data, what sort of a Division 296 liability they would face come 2027. Just to summarize, I guess, some of the basic tenets of the amended bill that was brought through in December. So you now have 2 thresholds to be in mind, yes, are mindful of, which is the 3 million and a 10 million cap. Both of these are indexed as well to CPI, similar to your T-bars. The 3 million cap is going to get taxed at an additional 15%, and the 10 million at an extra 10% over that. So things to keep in mind or front of mind. Couple of other things, which is for the first year, we only look at the closing TSB. So for the 2027 financial year, you're only looking at your closing TSB, whereas for future years thereafter, you look at your opening TSB and closing TSB to see if you actually get caught up by the Division 296 requirements. What you can also do is you have the option of resetting your cost base, which is something you need to do prior to lodging your 2027 tax return. So a few dates and sort of moving pieces there, which we'll talk a bit more in terms of what's coming soon within the product as well. But just going back to what was released last month, which is the AI assistant, let me jump into product. So essentially 3 tenets again to this. So the first thing you want to do is you want to identify, which members or which funds have members that are potentially going to get caught up by this. In Simple Fund, something you also can do is, so if members are part of multiple super funds, so let's say they have an SMSF and an industry fund, in Simple Fund under the, let's say, ATO T-bar management. Oh, by the way, I'm using the new sidebar menu. So if your menu structure looks different to mine.
Anthony, you're still showing the slides.
Oh. Let me try resharing. Better?
Yep, good now.
Okay. So under the app switcher here, under settings, there is a toggle for the new menu. So if mine looks different to yours, that's the reason. But essentially, you're going into T-bar management. And under the fund view for each of the members, you can actually add any external TSBs a member has. If they've got an industry fund, you could go put that balance as at end of financial year. So that's step one. Step two, you're going into the Insights dashboard. So that's under Home Insights dashboard. On the left-hand side, you've got all this, I guess, criteria you can filter your license on. The one we are looking for is total super balance. So this has been updated as at 30th June 2025. Now, given that the two thresholds we're talking about begins at 3 million, I'm going to pick funds that have members greater than 2.7 as at 30th June 2025, because the expectation is they would hit that 3 million threshold come a couple of years' time. I'm going to unlimited. And that will then filter out my right-hand side, which is essentially my funds, for those that fit that criteria. If we go into that particular fund, the contribution section, it'll tell you what their total super balances are as at 30th June 2025. Now, as you can see, we've got two members in this fund. Jane's under the threshold. John's definitely going to hit both criteria or both thresholds. So we're going to play around with this fund and see what this particular AI assistant is going to, or how it's going to work in terms of estimating division 296. So we know what the fund is. So we're going to work out, and this has to be done on a fund by fund basis. So we know it's the Nandes family SMSF. I've already got that fund selected. Then on the top right-hand side, this is where you trigger off the AI assistant. It'll open up a panel. You're looking for the Division 296 assistant. It'll give you a basic rundown of what it does, what you can ask it, the assumptions it's going to make. And these are the main two prompts I want to bring your attention to. So the first one is the resetting of cost bases. So you want to know, is it worthwhile for this fund to reset the cost base as at 30th June 2026? Because if you've got a gain situation, so what it's going to do, it's going to use your last create entries. So it's going to use the market values that it's calculated there against your cost to tell you whether you have an overall gain or loss scenario. Now, the closer you do the create entries for to 30th June, the more accurate it's going to be. But essentially, it's going to give you a ballpark idea of whether or not you should be looking to reset the cost base for this particular fund. I'll let you guys play around with that because I really want to focus on the Division 296 estimation. So I'm going to go ahead, click on that. It's going to start doing its calc. So it's going to look at, okay, for each of the members, what's their TSB as at 30th June 2025. Like I said, it's, let me refresh that. Don't you love doing stuff live? Let's try that again. Fingers crossed. Well, isn't this beautiful?
Just click on a prior conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So I've run this previously, and essentially it's going to do the calc. It's going to essentially go through the total super balances for each of those members as at 30th June 2025. It's then going to project out a couple of years. It's going to assume a 5% growth rate and then go, okay, here's your total super balance that we estimate it to be come 30th June 2027. Then it's going to calculate the proportion that's greater than 3 million and the proportion greater than 10 million to get a percentage essentially. Then it's going to use the earnings of 2025 to, again, forward project. So actually, let's go through the table. All right, so the full calculation is going to be further up. So you get the full reconciliation of what the system's doing. But if I just look at the final output, so like I showed you previously, it was just John that was essentially over that 3 million threshold. It's going to use your 30th June 2025 TSB. It'll include any external TSBs as well. So that's why I said put those in the T-bar dashboard. It'll then forward project. So it's going to use a 5% growth factor to forward project. It will also calculate what percentages that is above 3 million as well as above 10 million. It's going to use your 30th June profit allocation to then take away the unrealized gains amount because again, it's not going to bring in unrealized gains into the Division 296. That's how the amended bill was drawn up. It will then use that earnings to again forward project a couple of years, assuming a 5% growth factor. Does the calc based on the split, so the 15% tax, extra 10% for those greater than 10 million, to come up with your final Division 296 estimate. So, like I said, it's a starting point. It's just an estimate. It's using 2025 data to really model forward a couple of years. That's the starting point, just to get the conversation started with the client in terms of strategy and whatnot, based on 2025 data looking forward. Similar to any LLM, it'll then ask you, do you want to write an email to the client? Do you want to put a note in Simple Fund for next year when you come to actually work on the file? Similar to any of the other LLMs, those options will be made available to you as well. So go ahead and play around with it and provide us the feedback as you go through. So in terms of changes that we look to do within the software, so here's what's coming soon. So we'll need to start doing sort of fund level earning calculations because the whole idea is you need to get an actuary certificate to get that member level earnings allocation. So we need to do changes there. As you can understand, with the resetting of cost bases, we'll need to run sort of dual not CGT per se, but dual calculations for the gains and losses on the disposals of those assets. One for CGT purposes in the tax return, one for Division 296. There'll be changes in the chart. New reports we'll need to add to reconcile Division 296 tax. We'll need to update existing reports. So a lot there. Legislation was just essentially passed a couple of days ago. So hope to have something soon. But yeah, this is initially what we're thinking in terms of deliverables. Coming back to, I guess, the updates and what we're looking to have coming out next week as part of our next update, we'll be releasing a new period compliance screen. So this is essentially where you go create entries. That existing screen is over 10 years old, so we need to change or update the technology anyway. So as part of it, we're going to sort of reimagine how we do things. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to add more pre-lockup checks. So in terms of, do you have any unmatched transactions? Do you have any corporate actions you haven't processed? Have you completed all your distribution tax data entry? We'll do some create entries checks for you. We'll also indicate were there any significant events in that year that happened for this fund. Did any member leave the fund? Did any start a pension? Did any pass away? Just to give you a quick snapshot as well. But one of the cool things we want to do is we want to run the tax return validations as part of create entries. And something we want to do slightly different this time is give you workflow around it. So you can click essentially on a tax return validation error. It'll link you into the field in the tax return that error resides. It'll give you links to help articles on how to resolve that error. We'll start off with the top 100 errors that we've triggered over the years and then work through that list because there's close to 1,000 validation errors. And yeah, so that's the starting point. That's coming out actually next week. And yeah, so that's essentially what I wanted to cover off as part of Simple Fund, what we've done last month, what's coming this month as well. So we'll hopefully show more of this as part of the next webinar. But yeah, if there's any questions, I haven't seen the chat.
No, we can come back to questions at the end.
Okay, cool. I don't see any questions anyway.
Yep.
I'll stop sharing, Jeeves, and hand over to you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Cool.
So next up on our list, we've got Shami De Silva. So Shami is our CAS 360 expert, just been going around the country, showing all things CAS related. So it's been she's been very busy, but happy to join us for today. So over to you, Shami.
Great. I hope everyone can see my screen. I'll just quickly start it up. All right, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Shami. I'm one of the product managers in the CAS 360 team. So from a CAS 360 side of things, the start of the year has been quite busy. We've released a number of key features, including significant changes and enhancements around CAS 360 interface as well. So a brand new look and feel to CAS 360. But today I want to focus mainly on key features that we implemented last month, mainly around BGL ID and our new data retention option. So as you know, BGL ID is integrated into all our BGL products, and you're easily able to send the ID verification request at a click of a button. Now, based on client feedback, we have implemented some new options, and this is now the ability to import the ID details back into CAS 360, and of course, that is with your client's consent. Now, this is a two-step process, and I'll run through a quick video for you and show you how to trigger this option. So in general, with ID verification, once the email request has been sent out to the client and the identity has been verified, you only receive the ID verification report. So the result is stored in the BGL products. But with this new option, if your client consents, they can send back the ID details as well, and also the copies of the IDs that they uploaded can also be sent back to CAS 360, and you're able to import that information if you wish to do so. So let's have a quick look at a video on how to trigger this. All right, so this is your CAS 360 contact screen. As you know, you have your request ID verification button that you can click on, and up comes the options for you to select your verification type. So you've got your standard ID check, your adverse ID check, and your biometrics check there as well. And just there, you'll see a new optional settings section there where you can now request to store the ID and biometric details from your clients. So as I mentioned before, this is a two-step process. So the user will need to, the CAS 360 user can toggle it on in CAS, but also your client will need to consent to it as well. So this is where the email comes up that can be sent out to your client. And then from there, this is the email that your client would see. So they'll simply need to click on the code. There's a two-step verification process that they'll need to follow, and then key in the security code in to log into the BGL ID portal. And then from there, up comes your QR code, and your client would need to use their phone to continue and start the biometrics process. So at this point, they would take a selfie of themselves, and that'll be matched against the ID that was uploaded. The information will be imported in, and then you can submit that information. So this is that new consent modal that we have. Your client can consent to send the ID information back to CAS 360, and also that biometric scan, the selfie that they took, they can consent to send it back if they wish to, so that you'll have that image in your CAS 360 records as well. So once the client has submitted it back in CAS 360, you'll see a little notification button that has the information, and you'll now see a new data retention status in your compliance tab as well. So here it will say that the client has consented to the ID details to be received, and you also have the option to import that ID into CAS 360 if you wish to as well. And now the ID verification result, as well as the ID details, can be stored in CAS 360. Of course, you can decide not to run through the import process as well. So that's your ID verification and the new data retention workflow that we have implemented. Just jump into my next slide. So just to talk about what we have lined up for the next month and our next CAS 360 releases. So pretty exciting. We've got smart emails coming up. So smart emails was introduced last year during RegTech, where our little AI robot Ronnie rewrites your existing email template. So this was running through some beta testing with a number of clients, and it will go out in our release tonight. So it'll be released to all clients today. So you'll see that where Ronnie or the smart emails will now use your transactions and documents that you have selected to be printed, and you'll have the option to use the smart emails technology, which will rewrite the email, and it'll try and retain the look and feel. If you have already customized your emails with your logos and footers and things like that, we can still retain your look and feel and rewrite the context of that email there. Another feature we're also working on is scheduled emails. Now, currently in CAS 360, emails are sent out instantly. Now, with this feature, you'll have the option to schedule and send out the emails in the future, and CAS 360 will do the work for you in the back end. And another one that we are currently working on, hoping to release that next month as well, is automated debt reminders. Now, this is a feature that clients have been asking for a while, and I'm happy to report that it is coming soon. So what we do with this feature is, I do have some screenshots for you. We now extract the due date of your debt directly from the ASIC invoice. So you're now able to, or in a few releases, you will be able to set your ASIC debt reminders in your settings screen based on that due date that you receive from the ASIC invoice. So if you're already familiar with automated document reminder workflow in CAS 360, the debt reminders will work the same way as well. So a couple of exciting features to look forward to. So that's from our side, from CAS 360. I'll stop my share.
Exciting things there. So next up on the list is SmartDocs 360. So for anyone unfamiliar, SmartDocs 360 is a standalone solution that we use to extract data. For example, read a bank statement, extract the data, and import it into Xero. We're joined by one of our product managers, Andrew Pascoe. He's going to, I suppose, talk about some of the new additions there to the product.
Yeah, thanks, Jeevan. So today I'll give you a quick run through of our SmartDocs 360, in particular the accounts payable module. So accounts payable, it really is designed for people that are, for accounting firms and small and medium businesses that are managing that regular flow of supplier invoices. So this might include handling multiple client entities, as well as having that structured approval process that you have when multiple people need to get involved. Perhaps at the moment you're getting an invoice or emailing it around to someone, asking them for approval, emailing it to another person to set up, say, the ABA batch payment. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to automate that for you within SmartDocs 360 itself. So you can see, you should be able to see on the screen here that I have an example of an invoice approval workflow where an invoice has been uploaded to SmartDocs, either through email or by uploading directly. The SmartDocs has read all the information on the invoice itself. And then depending on the information on the invoice and the workflow that you've set up, perhaps it's just gone through, doesn't need approval, or perhaps it's gone through to someone to be approved and they either approve or reject it. So when they are sending through the invoice through this approval process, there are a couple of emails that we sent out. The one on the left-hand side here is the first one that the initial manager, perhaps they're sending it off to their boss for approval. So that person will receive an email. They can then approve that and review document and approve it either within the browser, or they can even do it within our app. So we do have a SmartDocs app for both iOS and Android. And then once that has been approved for payment, there'll be another email fired back to the original person saying this has been fully approved and it's ready for you to go to the next step and organize payment. Okay, so we'll have a quick look over here. So once you've got SmartDocs set up and you set up your entities and you started uploading some documents, then the accounts payable module will actually start reading those documents as well. But of course, first of all, you would need to set up a workflow. So we can do it under settings and workflow. Here's one that I've already set up for invoices that are valued at 500 to 1,000. Perhaps I want to set one up for invoices that are between 0 and 500. I can set a priority for this. I can choose which entities it's going to apply to, and also which document types. So it could be invoices, receipts, utility bills, and then that's the total amount here, 0 to 500, as well as the day since the invoice date. And I can choose whether I apply it to other entities there, and then choose what happens next. So the original manager here is myself, but I need to get it approved by Andrew Pereira because he's the smarter Andrew out of the two of us. So I add him in there. And then for these type of payments, I will want to create an ABA batch payment. So I now create that workflow. So you can see once I've uploaded some invoices or receipts, it'll go through these documents here that have been flagged by the accounts payable module. They've been captured by accounts payable because they are matching, say, an invoice receipt. It's read the information, and it starts to go through that workflow approval process. So you can see here we've got 3 that are ready for review. And the next thing we're doing when we read the information from the bill or the invoice is we do some validation checks because we don't want people approving fraudulent invoices. So we're doing an ABN check here. We are also doing a GST check. We're not showing in the UI. We'll do that in a future update. And we are also doing a duplication check. So we're checking things like the supplier name, the ABN, the invoice number, the amounts, to see if you've got any other invoices that match those details and you've accidentally uploaded them twice. We don't want you to have to go through and pay the invoice twice. So if we do have an invoice that we do want to go through and approve, should have one here, we can choose to ignore these errors if we want to. So this one here, we'll say that's fine. We've checked and it is okay. There's no duplications. We're happy with it. And then we can send it off for approval. Once it's been sent off for approval, then the next person will come through and come through and they'll be able to check all the details, fill in the bank details, as well as add any notes. So we say, okay, this is okay for payment. And all the notes will be there. So you're keeping this full audit trail for all the invoices that are going through your workflow. And then once they come up and they're ready for a payment, we just select the invoices. You can select a whole bunch of them. And if the ABA file is selected and the bank details are there, they'll be able to create an ABA file for you to download and then upload into your online banking for payments. So that's a brand new feature that we have in SmartDocs 360, the accounts payable. This is actually a hidden feature at the moment. It's in closed beta. If you would like access, please reach out to your account manager and we can set that up for you.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. Cool. So next up, we're going to chat about AML while I load my screen there. Cool. So extending on what probably Shami was talking about there, obviously BGL released BGL ID 2 years ago. So now with all the AML changes that are coming in via AUSTRAC, there's obviously a lot of work that BGL is doing in this space. So just to give a very, very high level there for anyone who's in the dark with this, is from 1st July this year, legislation has been passed where AUSTRAC has classified either accountants or trust and company service providers to be, I suppose, meeting the AML and CTF obligations. So anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism or financing as well. And there is also prolific one as well. So with that, I guess there is a lot of services that AUSTRAC has designated, which will be captured under there. So a lot of the common ones there is probably number 6. If you're creating trusts or companies, or if you're making changes to companies or trusts, if you're, and that includes SMSFs, if you're provided registered office services, or obviously on some certain debt transactions, you will be captured under this. What it means for accounting firms is there's several steps for the firm that they need to do with Austrac. So they need to obviously enroll and register there with Austrac. They need to develop an AML CTF program. And as I said there on the slide, it needs to be tailored to the business. So that's really all the different policies, risk assessments, what happens in certain circumstances that the actual business takes every time they either onboard, offboard, or they're monitoring their clients. There's certain roles within an accounting practice that they may have, and for smaller practices, they may be all the same person, and there'll be initial and ongoing training that needs to take place. From 1st of July, any clients that are new to the actual firm, or where you're providing a designated service to a client that you weren't previously applying to them, there'll be several KYC and KYB checks that will come into play. So obviously this is where BGL ID will come in terms of the KYC piece that's going through. Where there'll be reporting that will need to be done to Austrac at least annually, and records will need to be kept for at least 7 years. So around this is obviously a lot to cover. So we've run one webinar already. So the actual recording of that is available on BGL's YouTube channel, and that goes through the requirements in depth. So really, a really extended version of what we've done there. We've got another webinar that we're running there on the 26th of March, and that will actually has a specialist AML lawyer who's coming on to answer really the detailed questions and grey areas and things like that. Our third webinar, we've got a couple of accounting firms coming on board to talk about their implementation, the issues they're facing, what's actually happening in that space. And some exciting news there that we will actually be releasing a new product which will actually cover all the AML policies, will cover all the risk monitoring, and obviously the identification piece will be part of that as well. So there's a lot happening in that space. If you need to register for the webinar, I'll make sure that the links are included in the follow-up email sent out with today's registration or follow-up emails. But there is, as I said, a lot happening in that spaces, so please get onto that as soon as possible. Also, our three presenters today, Anthony, Shami, and Andrew, they're going around the country and presenting our masterclass series. So there is still our Melbourne session to be run, and we will be running an online session. So the masterclass series really shows you best practice around running your relevant BGL products. So it's not just really a new features update, it's really coming in, showing best practice, showing how to actually truly use those features we've released over the last, say, 12 months, and how they can be actually utilized to make you more efficient. So details around the masterclass, if you are interested, are available there on BGL's website.